Hey, what's going on guys? Zedd here, bringing you another Soul Calibur 6 video. Today's video is arguably the most anticipated video that keep saying I'm gonna make it. Well, here I am finally making it, and that is my comprehensive anti-maxi guide or demonstration, whatever word you want to use. That's what this is. So this video is going to be all about showing you why, in my opinion, Maxi is very easily a bottom 5 character, and if you look at just my tier list, why I always will consistently put him bottom 1. I hope this video can show you maybe why that is. Now, I'm going to do a lot of it from a Xianghua perspective. Now, I understand that the Xianghua matchup is quite bad for Maxi, but you can take a lot of the concepts that I talk about to your character and see if they work in the same situation. So, for example, if there's moves that have a sidestep tech crouch or a tech crouch, or you have a GI, or an auto GI, things like that, you can see if they work in place of your character. With that said, though, I'm also going to show a couple of examples that are non-Xianghua. It's just she, of course, is the one that I understand it the most thoroughly with. But some characters such as Siegfried, Aki, Alum, Raphael, all have very unique, powerful interactions. Setsuka, powerful interactions with Maxi, and so if you play any of those characters, or any character for that matter, just try to take what I'd show you here and apply it to your matchup there. And I'll try to use generic terms like a sidestepping move here, a tech crouching move there, so I can hope to try to give you some ideas as you're going forward. So the format of this is essentially going to be, I'm going to go over each of the moves that go into each stance, and then from there talk about the options out of stance. So just to give you an example, Maxi's 5B goes into right outer, and so I'm going to go over all the moves that go into right outer, how often you tend to see them, if they're very good transitions, and then once he is in right outer, what are the options he has and what can we do about it. He does have some soul charge options now. Most of them were given to him in Season 2. From stance, I'm actually going to save those until the end. The reason why is some of them can complicate matters, and when Maxi's in soul charge, that's when he is at least a little bit more viable. So I'm going to save the soul charge ones to the end, so don't fret if you know that I missed a soul charge attack when discussing his stance. I'm well aware. We're just going to go over them all at the end because frankly there's not that many, and for sake of formatting it makes it a bit easier. So without further ado, let's just get right on into it. Alright, so first up for Maxi's stances, we have right outer. And right outer is probably one of the ones you'll see the most, as some of his more decent moves from neutral will go into right outer. But as with all the other stances, there's a fair amount of counterplay here. So just to show you all the different moves that go into right outer first, that is 5B, 6A, 6BB, 3B, 1B, 1KB, 4A hold, the launcher series. So this one's not really all that relevant because he'll just do the back turn move anyway, but yeah, so we won't really talk about that one. And full crouch 3A series, so whether it's 1, 2, or 3 hits, it doesn't matter. Okay. 6A plus B. 4A B, which is this here. And then when he's reversal edges and he sidesteps in the 2 direction. So I guess that would be, yeah, in the 2 direction. I'm not sure if that's always the same, but one of his side steps out of reversal edge, if not both, go into right outer. I don't really want to go over the reversal edge stuff just because it's a bit of a pain to lab. But yeah, and then lastly, the CE. Which of course is this. He holds it, he goes into stance, and the stance that he goes into is right outer. So from right outer, the different options that we have, again, we are skipping the soul charge just for now. We'll come back to it. So we're just going to use 5B as our example. So you have right outer A into back lower, which looks like this. So you can see there the nunchuck actually goes behind him. That refers to right outer. or back lower, pardon me. And back lower has the low mid options, like that, okay. And then you have right outer AK, which is a bit of a string series, which is this. But remember, the 5V is putting us in right outer, and the AK is from right outer. Okay. Boom. And then alternatively, he has the hold option on that. It's like that. Okay. Then you have right outer B delay or BB delay, and those go into right cross. So it looks like this: BB delay, BB right cross. That's a move right cross, or BB right cross. So he can do either one hit into right cross or two hits into right cross. It's the same thing. So if we would just want to use a horizontal option, just so to show you some disparities, you can see here 1, 2 right cross, or 1 right cross. Okay? And then of course we have the sort of finisher string series. So we have the 1, 2 kick, very classic string. And then last up, of course, you have just a raw K, which is the flying kick. So these are your standardized options from right outer. And of course, just like every other stance he of course has access to the auto GIs and Heaven's Guard, of course. But we'll get into those at its own time, as they are stances of their own, at least the Neutral Guard and Heaven's Guard. So with the right outer transitions, a lot of the moves are, like I already said at the beginning, fairly decent. But the problem is the situation that he puts himself into on hit or block is not a good situation. So some of the better options are the 5B, that one's pretty good, very quick, good frame data, etc. 6A, not bad, more of an approaching option. His 3B launcher, not a good situation, but of course that's how he nets some damage. The 1B low is very matchup dependent, depending on the matchup, they can completely obliterate this low or don't really have any answers to it, and we'll go over that in just a moment. The full crouch 3A series isn't bad, but it is somewhat of a reactable low. That's partially because of its really quirky, unique animation. The 6-6A plus B is not a very good move, a little overrated, but we'll go over that. 4-4A plus B, not so good of a transition. And then, of course, CE transition is what it is. Normally, you see this, and it looks like this. They'll hold it, boot into this, and they do that because it's really good damage and really good carry. And the kick can convert into a wall combo, as well as a ring out to some degree. So we won't really talk about that one either. So I'm just going to talk about a few of the key ones here, and then I'll show you some of the options you can do across a couple of different characters. So in terms of general answers, first up, you can essentially GI. This goes for almost every Maxi option, for the record. You can GI, you can almost always 2A, and then there's always 2K as well. And again, the only way that these options don't really catch all is, again, usually there's one auto GI that beats your beats all option, or it's sort of a risk reward that is not in Maxi's favor. And I'll explain what I mean. So let's use 5B as an example. So if we just go based off of the standard move, you have this, that. So those are going to be your three sort of follow-up options from the stance. Now from here, you'll see that you have a mid-high, or a mid-high, go figure. A high horizontal, which is the A, very quick attack. You have a mid-vertical with a little bit of a sidestep from Maxi, that's the BB. And then you of course have the launching kick, which is a high attack. So you have two highs and one mid. Two verticals, one horizontal. So what you can try to do is, depending on the transition and the character, you can try to micro duck the A, as it is arguably the fastest option, and then if you have an auto GI for verticals, you can use that. And so just to show you what that looks like, I know this is a labbed environment, but just so you can see what it looks like, you have AK, let's just use that for our example. So I'm looking to duck the A here, the point I'm making. So you go boom, duck the A, vertical auto GI. If you assumed, or if you were just trying to do a catch-all option. Now, obviously, as you can see, the K is hitting me. So what you would do in this case, as a Shanghua, or if you're a character with a horizontal auto GI, you would know that, oh, I ducked the high, now I'm going to GI or auto GI the kick. So again, to make sure we have that loaded up. So duck the high, GI the kick. And it's actually a fairly good GI because it's a level 3. Which means he basically gets splat on his butt and you have a lot of frames to work with, and sometimes you even get free CEs. So it's a really good situation for you. Or, likewise, the stance that he goes into after the A, which again, is back lower, can also be deleted. So, back lower. Against back lower, a very safe option you can do is reversal edge. So, just to play out the sequence for you, right, we're going to say, let's assume he goes for the lows. Boom, reversal edge. You'll see that he actually can't step in. Now, he maybe can against some reversal edges. Again, I'm not going to test every character, but, you know, you get the idea. And if he goes for the mid option, which is this one, boom, 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 got him, and so on, so on. So reversal edge against back lower, not a bad play. Let's take it one step further. Now, again, the reason why I'm talking about back lower right now is because it is a immediate follow-up after the right outer A, which again is this move. I want to keep coming back to this because I don't want people to forget which move we're discussing. So we're discussing this high horizontal, okay, from right outer. So right outer goes into back lower on its own, assuming you don't finish the string, which is that. Okay. Now, if he goes into back lower, even if you block the A, what you can then do is step crouch block, and what that looks like is this. So boom, boom, step crouch block. And this is going to work because it goes for this. Boom, boom. Easy, right? Step the vertical, and then you block the kicks into a full punish. Whatever your wall rising punish is, that's what you get. And then the last option from back lower is the sort of retreating high horizontal. And that's just straight up gonna whiff. So you can see here, 1, 2, step duck. It doesn't do anything. And even if I do nothing, 1, 2, it just whiffs. Okay, so back lower, you can straight up reversal edge in this situation, or of course you can GI, and then again you have step crouch block, and again these are just the generic answers. If you want to get really technical about it, right, and your character has, you know, good parries or auto GIs or evasive attacks, you can always go boom, boom, right, and then hit things like that. But of course that's getting a little technical, and I'll leave that up to you for your character, or for you to decide with your character. Now, 5B, again, is a good option, and it's partially because the frame data is quite good, so you don't have the frames to do things like a sidestep tech crouching move. A lot of the fastest ones in the game don't work. For example, Shanghua's 1B plus K is a tech crouch and sidestep at the exact same time, and you'll actually see that if I go to duck right there on the A, that it won't actually work. Or pardon me, the B. So it ducks the A, but the B slaps me. I apologize. Like that. So 5B, a good transition. Now, one of the neater options you have is you can 2A trade. Now, 2A trade is a little bit risky, and I'll show you why. So let's first just knock the K out of the park, so someone's not like, but Zedd, he can jump it. No, he can't. So 2A, boom, you slap him. Okay. BB. Trades. So I'm gonna come back to that. And the A, you duck it. Okay. Now the only risk you go for from the trade here, or the clash, not the trade, pardon me, is if he converts into A from them. I'll show you what I mean. So I go boom. That's it. I only eat that B here, so not a big deal. We don't really care about that. There's the K. Again, we don't care about that. That's whatever. The only thing to be a little bit concerned with is if he goes like this. Right, so if he does the delay here, this, not that it's going to hit you, but it is going to generate some guard pressure. Okay, or this. Boom, boom. So that's pretty, you know, that's pretty good. A decent damage. It doesn't put him in a good Oki situation, granted. But that is sort of the only thing you're worried about by using 2A in terms of the flash. Obviously, he can try to PSL you and make that read. Yeah, made it whiff there, but there we go. Right, so you can see there that the 2A, if you do it immediately, will indeed get PSL'd. But if you're late to the party, sometimes you'll just catch him like that. So that is something to consider, that if the 2A isn't immediate, it's probably going to work. And again, because 5B is so fast, you probably won't have the reactions to do it immediately. So it's actually a pretty good answer in general, and that is, again, a generic 2A. With that said, some characters do have very specific options that beat basically everything. So, for example, we're going to use Sophidia for her first time in the video. So Sophidia 6B is a very unique move, in that it is a very fast tech crouching mid with an auto GI associated with it. This move basically beats everything Maxi can do here. So she tech crouches the A. She auto GIs the vert. And she just makes the K whiff. And then after this K whiffs, I guarantee you, all you need to worry about is just this. Which you would just sidestep. Easy peasy. No problem. And that's basically it. The only thing Maxi can do about this, so again, he can't use this. The only thing he can do about it, this. Oh, sorry, not that. There we go. So he has to fully commit to both auto GIs immediately just because you have 6B. Okay? Which is a really big deal, actually. So, you know, in this situation, your Sophie, this applies for every transition off of this, or into right outer, by the way. You can just 6B the day away and you don't care. You frankly don't care about anything he's gonna do on block, and some of them even on hit, but we'll get to that in a minute. And just to show you another example of a character who can just say, screw that stance, we have Talon. So Talon, boom, go. So here's the B, boot. So she trades with that, and this is her 6K that I'm using. Boot. 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 There you go. So he has to commit to just raw B plus K as soon as he hits 5B, which, you know, like, the risk reward there isn't good, because if you play a character, there are more, it's just these are the two I'm familiar with. If you play a character that has catch-all options against Maxi in stance, except for maybe an auto GI, or again an auto GI sequence such as back and then B plus K, it's what we call a reverse mix-up, meaning even though Maxi is the one pressing the buttons, he's putting himself in a mix-up, and the risk-reward ratio just isn't there. Because, furthermore, if he does go to do this, and he is correct, whoops. Sometimes it can be a little finicky. Come on, Zedd. There we go. So if he at all delays, meaning if he does not immediately hit the A lethal hit, you can just reverse impact it. No problem. no problem. And that's going to be the most likely option that the Maxi player is going to go for. The other thing is sometimes if you hit reversal edge, it just completely stuffs the lethal hit anyway. I'm not sure if that's intended or a bug. Yeah, so it didn't work there, but it is worth mentioning. The other thing too is the reason why this is so risky for him is you can absolutely whiff punish this particular move with a bit of practice very consistently. And so by that I'm referring to the GI itself. So if you do nothing and you know that you have an answer, that is what you're looking for. And even if you are in a situation that you don't have an answer to, you still want to look for that, and you still want to be able to whiff punish it in general. Okay. So, with that said, you can see here that 5B being arguably the best transition he has into right outer, even that has catch-all answers by some characters. But with that said, let's move on. But that's 5B, okay? Everything I just talked about, oh, and I also didn't mention that you can very much so just GI all options. So please keep that in mind as well. So 2 level 3 2 level 3 GIs right there, and they're actually the exact same timing. The only one with a little bit of a different timing is the kick, and that of course is not a level 3 GI, but so even just GIing Maxi here gives you so much value, because again, level 3 GI is bonkers good for most characters. And his only answer to that is basically just a PSL to delay his attack, or again, a neutral guard. So he would have to do something like, you know, this. Right, and that again, it's the hardest of callouts just for a GI, which every single character has access to. Okay, so even something as simple as a GI dismisses a lot of the Maxi risk reward. Okay, so please keep that in mind. So let's talk about the 6A next. It's not a great transition, but it's worth mentioning just because it is approaching horizontal. So he does have quite a bit of delay until he can do something. See here on block, I can actually swat at him with Cervantes 5B, and that's if he goes for the B. And if he goes for the A, like that, you'll see it does beat me there. Now, if you go to swing with an I-12, you'll just beat him outright. So, to challenge this on block, you can either swing with an I-12, or you can 2A here. Again, it's a great 2A spot. In most cases as well, you can 2K. And the cool thing about 2K here, okay, there's that. There's the A, and then the kick. So you can see that the 2K actually beats all the options. The really cool part about 2K is that neither of his standard auto GIs GI low attacks. So it doesn't matter if you go for, or if he goes for the transition here, like that. It doesn't matter. Nope. Nope. The only thing that he can do is Heaven's Guard. Like that. And the Heaven's Guard factor is terrible risk reward because he is spending half a Barda just to cover your 2K. And trust me, I know 2K is not a great option, but if you're really fussy about Maxi pressure, you can 2K most of it. But even if he goes for the follow-up, like that, auto GI, or reverse impact again. So it is so pitiful for Maxi when you can just 2K here and call it a day. Okay, so that's the 6A, and again, everything we already talked about beforehand applies here. So if you have, again, like sidestep tech crouching moves, sometimes they'll work here because the transition is a little bit slower. Yeah, so, or if you're a character who, say if you're playing Cervantes, well, I'm not executing it properly. There we go. If you're playing Cervantes, you could theoretically like do a sidestep into auto GI, or no, auto GI, high GDR, pardon me. Wow. Come on, Zedd. You can do it. So I didn't do it fast enough, but you can see kind of what I mean, right? Is if you have a character with a sidestep tech crouch, you can actually just beat both these options and call it a day. Sophie 2-2B works, Yoshi 2-2B works, Xianghua 1B plus K works, Siegfried reverse base, like he puts his sword in his backhand, that works. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff here, and sometimes on these transitions, even Ivy works. Okay, and by Ivy, I'm referring to her 214B. Track me. I didn't even do the move there. There we go. So like that, right? Boom. Just like that. So you get the idea, right? Is see what works for your character, see what you have access to, and just try to work off of that. But those are some of the options you can do versus right outer, and then some of the moves. We're gonna just kind of go through a few of the other ones, show you that this is indeed still the same concept, and it works for all of them. 3B, I feel like I don't need to explain this one. You have the most amount of frames to work with here. You can punish him accordingly. I believe you have 16 frames you can work with. So that's not a great transition, again, unless it hits you. Full crouch 3A is a pretty good transition, but if you block it, it's a terrible transition. 4-4-AB. 4-4-AB, the reason why this one sucks might not be what you think. So I shouldn't have gone to Talon right away, but you can actually just walk backwards out of this depending on your character. It's really tragic. Yeah, so Talon can't, her movement's not very good. Now, Maxi 1B also goes into right outer, so I wanted to talk about this one as well. Because his 1B on hit by some characters can be completely and utterly deleted, and Talon, again, is a very common example of this. So, we're going to use 1B AK as our example, and the reason why is it is the fastest follow-up option. Boot. 1BB. Boot. Grade. Auto GI. Auto GI. Oh, sorry, I didn't change it. Loses to the forward one. Boom. And of course, pick. So, yeah, not a great, not a great look for Maxi in this situation. So, yeah, not good. And in the case of, I know Cervantes can do it, Tira can do it, Ivy can do it, Halmar could probably do it, given that he has the best backstep in the game. But even if Maxi goes for 1B AK, which is this, in a relatively up-close way, look at that. One good backstep, you're out of there. Goodbye. And even if you're right on his feet, goodbye. Boom. And that's with the backstep cancel. Okay. Boom. On hit, by the way. If you don't believe me. Oop. Right, so if you think that I'm cheating and I'm like sidestepping early, we'll go back to the AK and I'll show you. Just box step. Oop, I crouched there. Just like that. So quick little box step into block and you're laughing. And if you really want to optimize it, you go back, sideways back. Like that. So, that's just one example. You can literally walk out of some of Maxi's pressure if your character has good movement. Okay? So 1B, not a good look. Challenge it on hit, just like how I described before already. You can GI here. You can duck, you can step, everything I've already talked about applies to all of these moves, okay? Just please, I want to make that clear. It doesn't matter, okay? Now the last one worth talking about is the 6-6 A plus B. You have 14 frames to work with here. The only thing he can basically do is auto GI you. You can see there he hit me. Oops. So we block this. Boom. 2A or 5A. Right. Boom. Boom. So you're only fussing with the auto GIs here on block. Everything else, you can completely stuff it with I-14 or faster, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's all of right outer. Just to sort of recap that, you can just simply GI all the options in right outer, 2A most of them, 2K most of them. Don't forget to re-GI the neutral guard and the heavens guard, and in some cases you can straight up delete the move or the stance with an actual offensive move, such as again IV214B, Sophia 6B, Talum 6K. Raph has some stuff. I don't know it though. Xianghua has options. Siegfried has options. The big sword guy. Zasalamel has options. Haomaru has options. Your character has moves to completely delete Maxi right outer amongst other stances. I feel like that pretty much gets the point across without just repeating myself. And so just at the end, if you didn't want to go back and take a look, I'm going to say the moves that go into right outer one more time just to make it clear. That is 5B, 6A, 6BB, which you can just GI in the middle of. I should have mentioned that. That. 1KB, which you can just mash step and avoid. See here on hit. Step. This move sucks. You're never going to see it. That's why I didn't talk about it. 4A hold. Full crouch 3A series. And 4-4-AB. Again, most characters can literally walk out of this pressure. Like so. Boom. Alright, and that is Maxi right outer and why it is a terrible stance, at least given the transitions that he has. Alright, so next up we have left outer. Now, left outer is a pretty horrendous stance. It doesn't have very good options, frankly, but some of the moves you'll actually see quite often, but I will show you why you really never want to let the Maxi, or why the Maxi will never want to use these moves in the first place. So again, this is left outer, and so all the moves that go into left outer are 1AB, which is this there, 4AB, which is that, 4B, which is the most common way to go into this stance that you'll probably see. Okay. 1KA, terrible move that goes into left outer. 6-6B hold. 6-6A plus BB, which is the break attack version of 6-6A plus B. That. And then if he soul attacks and goes forward, so it's like this. Oh, sorry. Like that. Okay? Those are the only moves he has that are relevant and go into left outer. So, and the left outer options are we're gonna be using 4B as our example here, just because it's the fastest way to get into the stance. Okay? So any move after the 4B is a left outer attack. You have left outer AK, which is that. You have left outer B, right cross, or left outer B, excuse me, goes into right cross. You have left outer BK, which is the finisher to this string. Okay. And then of course you have left outer K. So the risk reward in this stance is heavily in your favor as a defender, and I will show you why. You don't even have to be clever or gimmicky with this one to really just take full advantage of it. So, with this one, again, some characters do have beat all options. Again, Talum 6K is one of those options, as is Sophie 6B, and you're going to see that trend quite a bit, where those moves in particular really decimate Maxi and make him have a hard time. With that said, you don't even have to get crazy with the left outer. It's just a terrible stance, and I'll show you why. So first off, again, we're going to use 4B as our example for now. So you have 4B AK. Okay. This move is a very slow low. Very slow low. You have all the time in the world to react to it. So much so that, you know, you can hit your like auto GIs if you've got them, or if you have really good jump attacks, you can use those. Oh, wow, that was silly. You know, like that. So on, so on. Or in the case of Xianghua, you know, for Cassandra and Astaroth, you can crouch throw. Nightmare too, as well. You can just crouch throw it easily. There's so much time. Watch. So much time, right? That's left outer A. Okay, not a great option. Left outer B, also not a great option. He does go into right cross, which is fine. That's not really the issue. Sorry. His right cross, which we'll get to, isn't that great of a stance. And then you have the left outer K, which is by far his best option. And the reason why it is a step catching high kick, and it's also plus on block. I believe it's +2. So it's a pretty good move for him to generate any kind of pressure off of a pretty quick move, that being 4B. So 4BK, pretty common series that you'll see. But all you want to do against this stance, again, if you want to play it super duper safe, just crouch block. Or again, GI all of the options. The only one with a little finicky timing is of course the low. That is the most horrendous option. You'll never really see Maxis go for it. So disregard that one for the most part. Now, if you have a character who has like a horizontal auto GI that covers kicks, that's a great flex. Or a low auto GI, if you see that low coming, great flex. So even if I saw, you know, if I knew the K was coming, right, but I just wanted to cover the low as well, and of course crouch block, right? But even if I was crouch blocking to cover the K, we'll see. I have enough time to stand up and still get my low lead. Okay, and the B, the reason why you don't have to fear ducking here is this follow-up B does not have any sort of like anything really to be afraid of. You can see there, if a counter hits me though, right, I'm gonna get hit. So you don't want a 2A here. You just want to duck because that does not count as a counter hit. You can actually see here, I'm not, you know, it jails, like, so I'm just blocking that kick. Not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And even if you're like, oh, but Zedd, the break attack for plus frames. Well, no. Step it. Okay? Or if he goes for the kick. Not that. Like that. Step it. So just like that. So literally, left outer, my suggestion would be just to straight up duck it. Because the B is so nonchalant, like not good. Plus, if you have a vertical auto GI or a great sidestepping move like a sidestep launcher, like say a Yoshi 2-2B, then if you block the low or duck the kick maybe like 2 or 3 times, he's going to start going for the B, which A, you don't care about getting hit by, and also B, you've created this, again, reverse mix-up where you can just start stepping that, because why not? With that said though, some moves that have sidestep check crouch do work. So again, if I show you the kick here, you'll see that if I go for Shenghua's 1B plus K, it can work. The problem is this is just a little finicky with its timing, because I do have to delay it. And the B can sometimes be even more finicky, yeah, and just catch you anyway. And if I go the other way with my 1B, Maxi actually steps that way, so it's irrelevant matter. But some characters have a bit of a sharper step on their attacks, therefore get a little more mileage. But my suggestion, once again, just straight up duck this stance. Just duck it and punish that whipped high every single time, and you will see Maxis never use left outer against you. Period. And you know, frankly, I could really just leave it at that. But again, for argument's sake, I just want to show you Column, because she's a great example, you know, of what a move can do. Oop, right, and then that one hits you because of its speed. And as we already talked about, like that's going to be what it goes for, boot, and so on, so on. You kind of get the idea. You get where I'm going with this. Okay? So that's off of 4B. I'll just briefly touch on some of the other moves. 4B is probably his most common left outer transition, as I already stated. 668 plus BB, I highly recommend you just get in a habit of stepping this. It's not that bad with a little bit of practice. And the reason why is there's no half charging it. It's either all or nothing. So once you recognize like, oh, the second hit didn't come right away, I guess I'm just gonna step here. And it's such a clean step too, like, oop, not that way. You don't even have to move that far. Look at that. Okay? So, yeah. Just try to get used to stepping that, and that move will not be any problem whatsoever. 1AB. So, I see some maxis use this on Oki. You can GI it on hit. Okay? So don't ever let that hit you. 1KA is a terrible move because, again, a lot of characters can straight up backstep the pressure here. And in the case of Talum, she can 6K trade or beat every single thing, again, except for an auto GI. That's usually how it goes. Okay, so that's left outer. Not as much to talk about because right outer is very common. Left outer is trash. Just duck the stance, or if you have a good sidestep launcher or vertical auto GI, just be ready to kind of flex it every so often against 4BB, which of course is this. And yeah, that's my suggestion for left outer. Just duck it. I promise. Don't get hit by this. And I should have actually commented on that. The reason why you don't want to get hit by this, that's not the combo. Yeah, I don't know the maxi combo, but the reason why you don't want to get hit by that is because on hit, it does lead to a combo, right? So it's not worth your health bar to try to challenge that, okay? Just duck the K, avoid the plus frames, avoid the combo, you're good to go. That is left outer, and again, just to recap which moves go into it, 1AB, 4AB, 4B, 1KA, 8B, 66B hold, 66A plus BB, and oh yeah, solo attack forward dash. And that is left outer. Not a great stance. Just duck it. The one thing I forgot to mention with the left outer section is 4B is a move that has a delay into back lower. So you can see there the nunchuck goes behind his back and he goes in the back lower. We already touched on this one in reverse outer, or right outer. You can reversal edge it, or you can always step duck it as well, and GI is always a good option. Forgot to mention that on 4B, do keep an eye out for that, but it's still the same concept. Duck 4B anyway, and then look for the step into crouch block. So if you're looking to duck this, right, just do it this way. There we are. Right, so boom, duck, once you recognize that the kick didn't come, because it does come right away. Boom. Okay, so forgot to mention that. Just gonna add this tidbit at the end. Keep that in mind with 4B. So next up we have left inner. So left inner is a pretty subpar stance to say the least. And the moves that go into it are a little finicky as well. The real trouble with left inner is Maxi is somewhat forced into it from a while rising state, and I'll show you why that is the case. So first off, the moves that go into left inner are 4A, 236B, right, that one, 236B, while standing A, while standing B, 66B4 series, which is that. So what it would look like is this, and if you cancel it right away, and 22A, or pardon me, what, like the one of the step directions depending on which one you're using. Yeah, so in this case, for fact he's on 2P side, it's 88A, or if you're stepping to Maxi's right. The best way to explain it. So, left inner has very few options as well. It only has A, B, K, K, and K hold. So, very quick and easy to go over. We're just going to use while standing B as our demo, just so it's pretty clear as to what's going on here. So, we have while standing B, B. This is left inner B, the Falcon Punch. The reason why you're never going to see this move is because it's punishable. So you can basically disregard that one. The only reason Maxis use that is either A as a combo ender, or B if they have 7-star rebirth, as that move does become a break attack and decent, but yeah. So that's move is basically never going to happen. The next one would be A, which is this guy here. It is a very slight sidestep high move. Doesn't look like a high, but it is. That. And then the K, pardon me, KK, looks like that. And then the K hold, that. So K hold was somewhat of a recent addition, or it was a Season 2 edition, I believe. And the reason they gave it to him is because previously you could step crouch this entire stance with no fear. You still can to some of the stances, such as back lower. I'm not really sure how this changes much, but or why that stance doesn't have an option to be step crouch, but whatever. Left inner does. And the thing is, this move is nothing to be afraid of whatsoever. And if your character has any sort of horizontal GI, all you have to do is step horizontal GI, and I'll show you what I mean. So, A. Oops, I flubbed it. So the step is going to avoid this, right? The also going to avoid the B, and then auto GI the A, and auto GI the K. Assuming yours deals with kicks. So if you're playing Xianghua, quite literally, to beat this stance in basically its entirety, all you have to do is step into your horizontal auto GI. In this case, I'm using 4A as it covers the kick. The only thing he can do about it, realistically, this. Even then, you'll see how it's too quick. So what he actually has to do is like that. Oh, just kidding. They nerfed the window. Okay. Well, Maxi used to be able to do that, but I guess he can't anymore. So yeah, step 4A to entirely beat the stance as Xianghua. And again, if you have horizontal auto GIs of your own, you're good to go. Also worth mentioning that even if you're, like, you have a step tech crouching move, the K hold is not that scary to take. Right, so you can see here, if I go for, like, I don't know, 2-2A plus B, it's not that bad. Not that scary. But yeah, so if you have a horizontal auto GI and it covers kicks, boom, you're laughing. Just step this stance and then use that move, whatever it is. Don't have that kind of a move. See here, I block this, launch punishable. Step this, and you actually have quite a window, by the way. So if he jumps in the air, right, try to react to him going airborne. And you're good to go. Same thing, if he goes to the side at all, crouch. So you're looking for airborne, step. Steps to the side, duck. Block the B, and then K hold. You're just going to end up blocking that, and whatever. That's basically going to be his safe outlet in this case. So yeah, if you don't have any of those options, or you're not comfortable with that, just GI these moves, or just hold it and punish accordingly, or step the double kick, duck the horizontal high, and Bob's your uncle. That's actually left inner. Like, again, you can pick your characters, see if any particular attacks will beat all options. Again, just like step 4A for Xianghua. See what you can do. Again, some characters can just straight up walk away, so We haven't picked Tira yet, but let's pick Tira to change it up a little bit. So Tira against left inner, and again, this does go for basically all of the transitions. The only reason I'm using While Rising B is because this is the one you see the most often going into left inner, and so that's my justification for using that one. So again, let's use a 8-8A just as our example to show you what I mean. Okay. Walk away like an adult. Walk away like an adult. Walk away like an adult. And you just block that one. So, and even then, you don't have to do it. He would use this at further ranges. There. So, that's left inner. That's all there is to it. There's no gimmicks. That's it. That's all there is to it, in terms of challenging it. And yeah, so as a recap, the moves that go into it are 4A, 236B, terrible move, while standing A, while standing B, and stepping to Maxi's right A, so in this case 8A, A, and then 6-6B4. And his reversal edge B attack as well. That's at all relevant. This guy here. Just like that. And yeah, so that's left inner. There's really not much to talk about it in terms of the generic answers, but there you have it. Not a good stance whatsoever. Just step auto GI or step GI, or react just by holding. Alrighty. Next up, we have probably the second or third most common stance, and that is going to be right cross. Now, right cross for Maxi is, the reason why I say it's fairly popular is a couple of moves that go into it are some of his most common attacks. One, of course, is his 5AA. So his 5AA is going to be the one we use for most of the discussion, but then I'll go over a few other ones. But all the moves that go into right cross are as follows. That is 5AA, 6B plus K G cancel, which is this, as opposed to this. 8A, 3-3 B slide A, this guy, weird move, 4-4 B, and then his soul attack as well. And that's it. So realistically, you're going to see 5AA, 4-4 B, and the 6B plus KG the most of the moves. So we're going to use those as sort of our reference points. And from right cross, the different moves you have are, again, ABK, but the ones with different series are the A. So you have right cross, A, oh, pardon me. So A, and to delay back lower, so that looks like this. Okay. You have AA, which puts you into left inner. You have AA hold, which puts you into left outer. This is where it can get a little weird because it's really tricky to tell which one he's in between left inner and left outer, and you handle the stances slightly differently, but I'll go over it as well. And then he has right cross A B, which is that. Then there is right cross B, which can be looped into itself. Okay, and that goes into left inner. And then you have right cross K, which is that. And that's it. So, first and foremost, off of the 5AA, it's worth mentioning that if all he does is block... Okay. Oop, can't punish there, but... He is -10. Xianghua can't hit the punish, but other characters with I-10s can. Let's just swap to Raph really quick to show you. So this is worth mentioning as well. If your character has an I-10 that's a little bit further than Xianghua's, you're good to go. And this is really interesting because it creates this weird metagame where, you know, in the case of Raph, he would have to do this just off of his 5AA, which is a really big deal, actually. That's a big deal. That is not worth the risk for Maxi. So Maxi essentially never gets to 5AA against Raphael on block ever. 5AA, frankly, is more of an on-hit transition, but we'll go through it regardless. So 5AA has the problem of being stubby and having no forward momentum really to speak of. So the one way you can deal with all of the right cross options is as follows. You simply box step. So if we assume we're at like a decent range, let's say here, sort of 2A range, Maxi does any move after AA, back step, side step, and Bob's your uncle. Okay. Boom. Nope. Boom. Nope. It didn't backstep. Nope. Then. You just want to duck after the A, frankly, every time. There is an argument to be made for reacting to it, but regardless, so that's how you beat all three of the base options after 5AA. Is just box step, back step, side step, or 4, 2, or 4, 8, right? That's what I refer to as, that's what a box step is. Now, regarding the right cross A series, I just want to go over that really quickly before we get into the other right cross opener moves. You can see here that you have the double A, which is this, the break attack. Now, just doing AA puts, like I already said, puts you in left inner. And on block, it's actually not the worst situation, but what's even better is the AA hold. Because then you get access to left outer, which, if you want a point of reference, is the stance you get after B. Okay. So, a little more effective, because then he can start cycling plus frame. So then if I go to challenge here, oh, dead, right? So you always just want to default to ducking after right cross A, which is that right there, the elbow. Looks exactly like his 3A. Okay, so the reason why you just want to duck there is the B. I don't know Raph's punish. The B is quite punishable. I believe it's minus 16. So that's a really big risk for Maxi, and so defaulting to duck there is really good. But if you do get good enough, and you can kind of react to the animations, like you're looking for blue lightning or not blue lightning, then you're good to go. So again, with this fourth hit, there's quite a window. I didn't get it there. Like so. Okay. Now you don't actually have the frames to use any kind of like step duck or crouching move. Usually, there are some catches to that. So, for example, like in some cases, you'll see a lot of Raphaels. They're able to actually get away with this one. Oh. Sorry. There we go. Oh my gosh. Sometimes Raph can get away with the B plus K, but you can see there, I guess on my input history, you don't actually have the frames for it, what I was trying to demonstrate. So yeah, I highly recommend you just duck there and take the B, or with a bit of practice, just get good at responding to one or the other. And just assume that if you do block the lightning, that he's in left outer, because the left outer is significantly better than left inner, but they're both pretty bad. Again, you can just duck there, and I'll show you. So if you block the lightning, he does left outer, duck the kick, and then remember, if this B hits you, as I already said earlier in the video, it doesn't matter at all. And the A, you'll end up blocking. right? So if he goes into left inner, it's this one. So what you're looking for, right? You're probably just gonna have to block that double kick, especially if you're ducking, right? Like so. Yeah, so play around with that, see what works for you, but just keep in mind that he's probably going to go to the left outer more often than not, but that's not necessarily a rule of thumb. And then just to show you the box step, I think I already, or remind you, I guess, of the box step, right? Boom, and then big kick as well is going to be stepped. So that's the AA transition. The other common one that you'll see is like 4-4B. So the problem with 4-4B is the range. So 4-4B is generally followed up by, if it whiffs, they'll generally use neutral guard, which is auto GI. Boom. Maxi things. Right, that's usually what's going to happen. So on whiff, just be prepared for that and look for it. Assuming it doesn't whiff, a lot of maxis will go forward, just to sort of close, oh, I'm sorry, just to sort of close the gap a little bit, right? And that goes into right outer. So you'll see this a fair bit, or even that one. So if your back is to the wall, sometimes they'll go backwards, which again goes into left outer. So if your back was to the wall, right, they might go for that, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, so right cross is kind of silly. Always duck the lightning, punish the B if you block it, the K is whatever. Yeah, and if you 5 AAs, just box step. Or if you're savvy and you're able to react to this one, this move here, exact same thing, just box step. Come on. There we go. Sorry. Exact same idea. Not quite as easy to input, I'll admit, but still the same idea. And just like before, don't be afraid to just, you know, GI all of these, or these two options. Of course, keep in mind the B, but of course, you know, the risk here is he completely whiffs, and that's not good for you. Yeah, that's right cross. I don't think there's too much to say about it, to be honest, because there's not that many moves that go into it. If anything, you'll see maxis go into right cross from a PSL transition, but in terms of dealing with that, we'll get to that in a later part of the video. But for now, I'm just looking at one for one the stances and the moves out of those stances, and there you have it. That is right cross. And just to wrap up again, you have AA, 6B plus KG, 8A, 3-3B slide A, and 4-4B. Okay, and that's right cross. Alrighty, so next up we have back lower, the most infamous of maxi stances, and the one that screws people over in ranked all the time. And we basically already went over how to beat it, so yeah. But let's talk about it, shall we? So first up, the moves that go into back lower themselves actually aren't that bad, quite frankly. So you have 3A, which is a decent horizontal mid. It's the elbow. You have 4A, which is a decent move as well. 4 AAA, 2, 3. Just keep in mind with 4 AAA that 2, 3. There we go. That the third hit is GI-able. Okay, a lot of people don't know that, so please keep that in mind. And then if he finishes the string, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The frame data is actually different than right cross. So you can see here, like boom, 16, 1, 2, 4. Can't launch him. But then if you do this, four. Oh, no, frame data is this. My apologies. Thought it was different. Disregard that. Okay, so full crouch 3A plus B also goes into back lowered. Okay. I already mentioned it earlier, but 4B delay goes into back lower. Sorry. Just like that. And then while standing B plus K. Oh, that's the cancel. This move. While standing B plus K. 6-6 A plus B hold. And again, the difference is 6-6 A plus B does not go into right or back lower. He has to hold it. The way you know that he goes into back lower after this is the nunchuck will just be behind his body basically as soon as he recovers. But if he doesn't, then the nunchuck remains sort of up by his shoulder. Okay? And then 3-3B. This guy here goes into back lower. And then his right side throw, which is quite interesting. Not that. That one. See right there, back lower. Okay, so those are all the moves that go into back lower. The most common ones you're going to see are basically 4A, right? 4B delay. We already talked about that one though. 3A and 6-6 A plus B hold. Those are going to be the ones you see most often. Now, regarding back lower, quite literally on every transition, all you need to do is either reversal edge, which will lose to very specific things, like if he does an auto GI into a different move, sometimes you can get screwed over, or if he does neutral guard, so let's use 3A, neutral guard, right? This beats out your reversal edge as well. Just keep that in mind. That. But assuming he commits to the back lower attacks, reversal edge is a really powerful option. You have the A, B, and KK. And the only other thing he has from this, again, assuming no soul charge, is a back lower B hold. Now, the only difference between the held and the non-hold is what stance they go into, much akin to the right cross AA hold. And those two differences are back lower B itself. Back lower B goes into right cross, which is the stance we talked about prior to this one. And B hold goes into left outer, which again is the one with plus frames. Okay, and again, for left outer, just duck. And for right cross, just look for... Right, if you block this anyway. There you go. You can just block step again, or look for the lightning, or block the beat. Okay. So if you want to know how to deal with right cross, go to the section just before this one. So all you need to do against back lower, regardless of what move he uses to get into it, is quite simply step crouch block, and step to Maxi's right. The reason we do that is just so that the B doesn't track you by accident. So you can see here if I step to his left. Sometimes it's a little finicky. Sometimes it can catch you. But in general, step. Boom. 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 And I didn't show the A yet. My apologies. Just like that. Boom. That's literally back lower. There's not much else to say about it. The A will whiff you if you essentially don't move. It's like that. And that goes true for most of the moves that go into back lower. So same thing here. Right? 4B delay, whiff. Exact same thing. Right? There's really not much to say about this stance. Reversal edge is really good, and you can just step crouch block. I didn't show the reversal edge, my apologies. I'll do that right now. So you can see here, boom, let it rip. Only thing you might want to keep an eye out on is the A, because the A can sometimes make it whiff just like that, right? But if your character has a bit more range on the reversal edge, or it has a dash associated with it, you're going to catch Maxi just fine. But in the case of Xianghua, as you just saw there, it does whiff, unfortunately. And yeah, quite literally, that's all there is to talk about with back lower. It's a gimmick stance. It is not real. If you know where he can get into back lower, It should theoretically never hit you. Yeah, there's really not much to say about it. If you know how to get into it, you know where he's going to use it, it's pretty bad. Also, it's very distinct in its animation in terms of when he's in it. So the nunchuck will be behind his waist and both his hands will be behind his waist. So if you can spot when I'm doing this, if you can spot when he goes into back lower, you're fine. But if you can't spot where he is in back lower, I can tell you that it's right there. Okay? So again, it's when the nunchuck and both his hands are behind his body. Just like that. Okay? That's kind of all there is to back lower, to be quite frank with you. Alrighty, so last up for Maxi stances, we have Neutral Guard / Heaven's Guard, which is the move that he does for his vertical auto GI, or when he spends the meter for the auto RI, but the window on the auto RI is smaller than the other two auto GIs. That is worth mentioning. I know it looks similar, but it's really not, and it costs him a lot of meter to use. And now there have been changes over its history where now you can actually reverse impact it, whereas previously you couldn't. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. So, because any stance move goes into these moves, this is going to be a situation where you're doing one of three things. Either A, you're playing against a Maxi who uses a lot of neutral guard in general, so you're looking for it. B, you're generally looking for it because you have the ability to whiff punish it, which takes practice, but you certainly can, 100%. Or C, you've been auto-GI'd because you try to challenge with a vertical. Okay? Which you should, by the way. So let's talk about that situation. So I'm just going to use, for sake of speed, I'm just going to be using 4B as my method of getting into neutral guard. Okay? This does not necessarily mean that I would challenge 4B, which is left outer, with a vertical. I'm just using it as my transition. Okay? Just want to make that clear. So, neutral guard. Thing is, neutral guard has the A lethal hit, and the A lethal hit happens when he is auto-GI'd something. The problem is, unless he's mashing it, which I will here, right, like that, unless he's mashing it, he's not going to be able, or if he's mashing it, you won't be able to reverse impact it. If he doesn't mash it and he's sort of waiting to see if it actually worked, which is the smarter play to do, you can reverse impact it. But here's the deal. I held it a little bit there. So you can see there my reverse impact came up, so he didn't actually get the lethal hit, even though I didn't impact it. I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer. There we go. So you can see there, like, he's just not able to hit the move, quite frankly. It's not happening. Now, if he gets like a level 1 auto GI, sorry, it's really easy to reverse impact. But if he gets a big one like a level 3, well, that's where it becomes a little trickier to reverse impact, but you should still try. Right, so even if he's mashing it out, just like that, and I do a move that is not a level 3 auto GI, every time, without fail. And he himself gets level 3 auto jet because it's a reverse impact. Okay, so that's the move that most maxis are going to go for if you GI. Now, alternatively, what he's able to do is this. Now this, right, is going to beat you out there, but he really, frankly, doesn't get that much unless he CEs there.
The surf's gonna get rough.
I'm not even sure if I did that right. No, hold on, sorry. If you just raw CEs is what I should have said. Because if you GI here,
The surf's gonna get rough.
bad example.
The surf's gonna get
There we
rough.
go. Bam. Right? So you do have to watch out for this. The lesser option that you have to watch out for is the one that I did on accident the first time, which is this one, and this move, right? Not really that scary. It does launch you, but you can soul attack after it, I believe. Pretty risky. Pretty risky. Okay, and then he can do... So from neutral guard, all the things he has access to are forward leap, which is this, goes into left inner. Okay. He has neutral guard A, which is the low. He has neutral guard B. That was 2 Bs. Neutral guard BB, which is what I just did, which goes into right cross. And then he has BB hold, which goes into outer. Okay. Neutral guard KK. Oops. Which is the low mid. And neutral guard B plus K. Sorry, the inputs are a little wacky. I don't play Maxi, so. Okay. And then from neutral guard as well, he can, as I already demonstrated, CE, but he can also soul attack. Okay. So that's everything he can do from neutral guard. Now here's the thing. Most often than not, when neutral guard does something, when you have to worry about the moves, you've probably already been auto-GI'd. But say you're not whiff punishing it, the best thing you can do against this is to step crouch block if you have the time, because the step crouch block, right, you're going to avoid the verticals. And that's why if you have like a good while rising game, it's really good, because on whiff it's very easy to just and then step crouch block and then wait for your time. So you know, if it's a while rising B, or Shunkw's case of full crouch 3B, or if you have like a while rising A launcher like maybe Yoshimitsu, right? It's great to just step crouch block and wait for the opportunity. Or you can step CE, that's a great option as well, right? So if he goes for the K option, right, you'll block it. Also, GI it. Okay. There is... This is very, very easy to step. Okay. And then you have the A. The A is the fastest option for sure. Okay, and that's going to be the one that might clip you on a whiff, right? Like that might happen, but that's frankly not a big deal. If you're trying your best to launch punish it, that's going to happen a lot while you're learning, which is why I usually recommend when you see neutral guard, just throw 5B right away, because by the time you react, here's the thing, like if I in a lab environment, he's going to GI it in a lab environment. But by the time you've reacted to the fact that green flash is there, it's already too late for that button to work, right? So you can see what I did right there is like, oh, vertical. Okay, and this is consistent, by the way. Like you can do this consistently. Just start with 5B, right? For most characters, it's 14 frames. Slower characters, you might have to find an alternative. Like Nightmares, just start with 5K, right? Just get used to punishing it every time you see it. Okay. And it's the same with the PSL transition. Just get used to throwing your 5A as soon as he does it. So if you see this nonsense, right? As soon as you see that high green splash, just get used to throwing your AA, and you will have so much success. And you won't have Maxi doing this bullshit to you. Right? Maxis who just green sparks, green sparks, green sparks. They're going to stop doing that if you start challenging moves like neutral guard and PSL with the opposite move. Because remember, he cannot PSL into PSL or neutral guard into neutral guard. Okay? The only way that that's possible is this. Not going to happen. That doesn't count. He's not going to do that. And the only way he can PSL auto J again is if he doesn't attack. Okay, like that. So, just challenge with the move that he used the auto GI with, and you'll be fine. I hope that makes sense. That's all I have for neutral guard. Heaven's Guard is dealt with the exact same way. It just has an even tighter window. So same thing, step crouch block or just block and try your best to whiff punish it. Again, the neutral guard A might catch you a little bit. This guy here. And that's life. Like that's just gonna happen. Right? You're not gonna get it every time for sure. But if you do block this, it is worth mentioning that it's punishable. Okay. Quite a bit, might I say. Okay. So please keep that in mind. I don't see a lot of players punish this. Pretty sure it's -16. No, more than that. Significantly more than that. It's launch punishable even. So there you go. It's such a big risk for Maxi to throw that move out. So yeah, that's what I would do against neutral guard. Step, crouch block, step, crouch block, step, crouch block. And you should be good to go. And that concludes it for the Maxi stances in terms of the moves that go into them and the moves that are out of them. Now we're going to transition into more just general knowledge, things you should do, things to keep in mind, and some different things or different ways of playing against the character to sort of round out this video. Alright, so let's jump right into that. Alright, so let's quickly run through the soul charge attacks that he has from the different stances, just so you can get a little more comfortable with them. When he's in soul charge, that's kind of when Maxi's pressure is a little more real, and you can respect it a little more unless you have vertical auto GIs, and I'll show you why that is. So first up, in the right outer stance, he has two options. He gets, so right outer, we're going to transition in with B. He gets A plus B, which is that. That. And that. Those are different options he has. So that, of course, is right outer A plus B, which is this one. Or right outer A plus B. They're pretty quick motions. This guy here is actually a double high situation. Oops. A lot of people don't know that, so stay down. And so the problem with this particular move is that the right outer option in general, you know, you would deal with it with generally ducking anyway. So that's kind of the problem with it. It's not a great move. And then the A plus B one, which is this, not bad. This is a means of just looping itself. That's all this is for. So it goes back into right outer. Okay, that's all that does. So that's it for the right outer soul charge. Doesn't really change how you handle the stance. Next is the left outer. So left outer, we're going to go into it with 4B. Okay. So left outer gets left outer B, A plus B, which is this. And it also, again, loops back into itself. So, like this. So you can see here the loopable stuff, it's all like pretty easy to deal with, steppable, auto-GIable. And then the one I already showed earlier, which I didn't mean to, is of course the left outer A plus B, which again, it's loopable. That's all it is. It's just loopable options. It does give you a reason to dissuade you from just crouching this stance, but at the end of the day, I still recommend it. And then just GI the other two options, see them coming. That's my suggestion. Doesn't really do much for the stance either, but yeah. Next up, we have left inner, which we're going to use while standing B as our metric. And left inner only gets one, but it's not bad. So it's this guy here. The reason it's not that bad is it does go into back lower, and on hit, it can actually be quite painful. So again, if you just deal with back lower correctly, you're okay. So again, do this, and then it's going to... Still the same, just step, crouch block, and you are good to go. Okay? Next up is right cross. So he gets two options in right cross, sort of. And that is, so we're going to use 5AA. Okay? Gets 5AA, A plus B. Like that. And then you have I thought, oh no, sorry, I have it written down wrong. My apologies, folks. This one. So he gets this, the front flip, then he gets this. That becomes a mini version of this, basically. So it's safer. And it does go into left inner. Okay, so it's not actually launch punishable, but it's because he went back into his stance, so just keep that in mind when he goes for that. That's right cross. And then back lower, he gets two things. Yeah, so for back lower, we're gonna go into it with let's use 4A. So 4A, for back lower, he gets A plus B, which is that, and that goes into right outer, and then he also gets a sort of cancel version of that, which is that. Not great options. Same thing, you just step crouch block, so it actually doesn't change the stance at all, and you're gonna notice that's the trend, is he already has a vertical mid. All the soul charge moves are basically just vertical mids for the most part, so it really doesn't change what you do at all. And that's actually all he gets for stances in soul charge, so not that crazy. Regarding this move, regarding his soul charge itself though, we'll go over that relatively quickly. So just so I don't miss any, we're just going to do it sort of fashion way. And that is going to be like so. So you get this one, which I already showed a little bit. So that goes into another stance, left inner. You get 2 through 6A. That is not the move. 2 through 6A, which also goes into stance. This move, if you know what you're looking for, is incredibly reactable. Because the flames start immediately, and there's nothing else really that looks like it other than 2 through 6K, but that's I find this very distinct and very easy to jump or block or GI, okay? But it takes a little bit of practice for sure. Next is the 6A plus B. This move is a plus on block situation. But oddly enough, some critical edges, and in the case of Xianghua, her I-12CE beats all options except for the two worst options, which I'll show you in just a second. And then the stance options, which we already went over. So yeah, that's it. So if he goes to do the Watcha, in order to beat out my critical edge, he has to Falcon Punch me, which remember is launch punishable. Or do that, which is fuckable. So because he goes into left inner, this is the stance where you step crouch block everything. And the only thing really that's going to stop you is the kick, which is real in soul charge, but that's all you're taking. So if he goes for the kick, you can see, because every other option is step crouch block or step duckable except for the K hold. So Amy, when she has her I-12, can do this. Valdo with his CEs can do this. Taki CE can do this as well because of the iframes. Yeah, it's plus, but the stance that it goes into is so bad it doesn't matter. So you can still step block or step crouch block the entire stance. It does not matter at all. The only really thing is like he does get the left inner A plus B, so it would look something like this, right? This is sort of his only way of stopping you. So if I go to step to the right, oh wow, that actually missed. I thought that was going to catch me, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, so you can see there, it really doesn't help him at all. So his soul charge is not that good, it's not that scary. A lot of extra verticals in places that frankly don't matter. Yeah, that's kind of all there is to say about it. I do know that one of the ways he can use it though is if he uses sorry, I had it written down here. His 6A, right outer, right. So his 6A in Soul Charge is a fairly good move because this on hit can generate some decent pressure for him with his various options. But even then, it is what it is. It's not that great. So that's Maxi's Soul Charge and his Soul Charge options, and that basically is it for his Soul Charge. His Soul Attack is used in combos. It does set up a reset situation. Turn that off. You can see here, you don't actually fall to the ground. A lot of people don't know this, so just keep that in mind as well. And look at the Soul Attack, see what it does, because he can go into different stances. Each direction goes into a different stance. So just take a quick peek at that, and you should be good to go. Okay, so as the first bit of sort of knowledge, if you want to call it that I want to show you is I want to go over the various stance animations for those who are looking to really deep dive into Maxi and look at like, well, what if he does 4B and goes backwards twice? Or what if he does, 5AA, goes backwards twice, forward once, and then B, right? Not that that should ever be working against you, because you should just be challenging that. But for those who want to just take a look and explore, I just want to do my best to explain or go over what the different stances are and how to visually tell them apart. And actually the names of the stances do reflect what they look like. So you can see here I have Maxi on both sides. This is so that you can see it from both perspectives. And I'm just simply going to hold down the button of one direction or the other. The best way to do it is to start the loops at right cross, because right cross starts and ends at both full loops and full rotations. So that the best way to get into that is, of course, just 5AA, hold backwards and see where you go. Okay? And same thing, 5AA, hold forwards and see where you go. Now, if you're doing this, right cross, the first stance you're going to encounter is right outer. And the way you can tell that that is the case, see how the nunchuck is on the outer side of his right shoulder. Therefore, right outer. Okay? That's right outer, and again, just to pull a move as an example, look at 5B. See how the nunchuck just spins like that? That's right outer. Okay? So that is right outer if you're looping. Again, right cross, right outer. Right cross, right outer. The right cross, if you look, the nunchuck is in his right hand across his body. Okay? So we're looking at the animation after the 5AA. It is in his right hand across his body, therefore it is right cross. Okay? Cool. Back lower is the third one from the forward loop after 5AA. 1, 2, and again, if the nunchuck is behind his back and both his hands are behind his back, that's back lower. So we have right cross, right outer, back lower. The fourth one is left inner. So now you're going to see, so here's the thing. Maxi swaps it to his other hand with back lower. And this is almost always the case, but we'll get into the other way why. So the next one is left inner. And left inner, to give you a reminder, looks like this, where the nunchuck is in his left hand on the inside of his body. Okay? Not that one. 4A. Alright, so what that looks like in the loop formation is it's going to be right cross, right outer, back lower, left inner. Right cross, right outer, back lower. Yeah. Back lower, left inner. And then last you have left outer back into right cross. So left outer is exactly what it sounds like. The nunchuck goes on the outside of his body on the left side back to right cross. So right cross, right outer, back lower, left inner, left outer, right cross. So right cross, outer, inner, lower, left, outer, cross. And if you do it backwards, it's backwards. So you go right cross, outer, inner, back lower, outer, cross. And you can see here, if you just hold it, you can try to identify each stance by name. And then what you want to do, if you really want to test yourself, is once you've learned what moves are out of each stance, just hit the button when you think you're in a stance and you in your mind know what stance you're in. So you're like, oh, I'm looking for back lower. Boom. Okay? That's a good way to teach yourself, even if you're learning Maxi. It's a good way to be like, alright, what stance am I in? Boom. What stance am I in? Boom. And so same thing from this perspective. Okay? So just get used to these animations, get comfortable with it, and see what each thing looks like. And you'll, even if it's not helpful in the middle of a fight, you will mentally be that much more comfortable with Maxi in the first place. So those are sort of the stances. It gets a little more complicated than that, but just in a very rudimentary way. I just wanted to showcase that and show you that, you know, it's not that scary when you really break it down, and the names actually do reflect what's going on, whether it's inner, outer, cross, or back lower. All right. So in terms of playing against Maxi, it is obviously dependent on the matchup, but generally you kind of just want to challenge him in neutral. And then when he decides to approach you, kind of let him hang himself, because you start running at Maxi, he actually has some fairly good defensive tools. For example, his jump attacks are solid. His 6A plus B is a great button. Is a very, very fast tech crouching move that knocks down mid and safe. It's a great button. So you're going to be playing into that. 4-4B, if you whiff a high, this has a lethal hit, so full combo, great rage. So this move as well, you're playing into that if you run up at Maxi. And then in terms of neutral game, just be careful of his 2-2A and 8-8A, as yeah, they're a bit slow, but if they hit you on counter hit or run counter, it is a full combo. So that would look something like this. Not that. Right, so you kind of get the idea, right? Boom. So, you know, you don't want to take all that damage just because you stepped, right? Keep that in mind. Again, when you're more comfortable with the stances, learn where you can challenge and what you can do. Your characters will have different options as well, whether it's movement, auto GIs, evasive moves, etc. Take what I talked about in the stances, try to apply it to your own characters, see what works for you. If your character has auto GIs, you automatically have an advantage over Maxi. They are fantastic tools to use against him. And if you have a character with really, really good movement, then he has some transitions he can't even use. Again, that's 5AA, 1B, amongst a couple more, like 4-4AB, etc. I won't go too far into it, but yeah, that's sort of the game plan with Maxi. Is I kind of just challenge his neutral because it's pretty bad, and I let him hang himself, because this move alone, counter hit, this move alone is actually punishable, and a lot of people don't know that. Okay, so the non-stanced version, minus 12. Now, the way to tell the difference between 2-2A and 8-8A, because if you're wrong, right, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna punish this. Oh, I got PSL'd. The way you know is actually he swaps hands of the nunchuck, even if you try to be really cheeky and do like 2-2-8A or 8-8-2A, like that. There you go. This is 8-8A on this side. He swings from left to right, so his body is rotating to the left. Whereas this one, his body is rotating. Yeah, his body is rotating to the left, whereas this one, his body is rotating to the right. And the other thing is, it's a bit more of a larger animation. So watch behind Maxi's head right now. Notice how the nunchuck has a big green trail. Sorry. Whereas when he does this one, it doesn't really. It's a bit more fluid. This looks like maybe this is just me. This looks like a natural move. right? This makes sense to me. But this move, it's very unnatural, a little more distinct, and he immediately starts flipping around the nunchuck afterwards. That's how you know he's in stance. But this one, he just kind of gracefully goes back into a blocking animation. That's the difference between which one's punishable and which one's not. So just make a note of that. Get used to the animations. Can tell the difference. More often than not, good maxis will just go for the 2-2A or the non-stance version. I'll just call it that. More often than not, but not always. The best thing Maxi has going for him in neutral is decent range on moves like that, 4-4B, but then his CE. So his CE whiff punishment is quite good because of the fact that he can like convert into a wall combo, deal fairly good damage. But the problem is, even if this hits you, which you'll see, he is so far away from you, you can't do anything. So yeah, that's kind of Maxi neutral. Those are some of the things that I do. Yeah, that's my suggestion for how to play against Maxi, and I hope looking at the stance loop kind of helped you out a little bit as well. So there you have it, basically. That is a breakdown of each of the moves he has from stance and each of the things that I keep in mind when I'm fighting against him. Again, the biggest takeaways of gameplay are if he uses PSL or NG disregard, just hit with the opposite move and you'll be good to go. Or rather, hit with the same move is what I should have said. So if he uses PSL, right, bing, just as soon as you see that green flash, boom, 2A or 5A. Right, just get comfortable with that. And same thing if you see the neutral guard, right, as soon as you see that flash, you know, step crouch block, and then punish that low big time. Okay, and yeah, so other than that, I hope you learned something. For those who still think that Maxi is a good character, I didn't even go into what moves are punishable, by the way, because I feel like I've done enough here showing what you can do. So take a look at the string enders and the stance enders, so things like the kick attacks or his various neutral tools. Take a look at the frames of the moves that don't go into stances, and then you'll see exactly what I mean. A lot of the 2-hit strings are GI-able as well, but I'll let you do a bit of lab work yourself with your character, see what works for you. And if you still think at the end of this video that he is a good character or not bottom 5, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I would love for you to tell me in the comments why I'm wrong, and we can have a little chit chat about it. So thanks so much for watching if you watched it all the way through, and go kill him ranked maxis, and you know, let's demote them. So let's hope we get him some buffs. Have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.